Did I feel like quitting? A couple of years ago, I did a charity run for mental health. It was from here in Canberra, all the way up the east coast of Australia to the tip of Cape York. 5,000 kilometres over 4 months. It took me a marathon a day on average for 131 days. And I had no support crew. Just a small backpack with a change of clothes and some other essential gear. So a credit card in among that. If I'd started in Tasmania, I would have set a bunch of records. But that is not what mattered to me. I wasn't craving to be better than somebody else. I just wanted to find out, if I set out from my home, how far I could go, and if something in here would stop me. Down in New South Wales, it was really great. There were so many people who wanted to help out. Basically, I just ran from one place to the next where I'd been offered a place to stay the night. I ran through 40-degree heat, but mostly rain that lasted weeks. I avoided roads as much as possible and followed the coastline, often running on the beach. Up in Queensland, civilization starts thinning out. So this is me sleeping out in a mosquito net that I took with me. In the Cape itself, the roads turned to dirt, well, mud, actually. And along these, the furthest I ever had to run was 110 kilometres in one go. And we're talking between 2 roadhouses. So I was fueling myself on meat pies and sausage rolls. After that, the roads become 4-wheel drive tracks that pass through crocodile-infested creeks. It wasn't until over 4 months later, after 5 pairs of shoes, I lost about 10 kilos in weight, that I made it to the very tip. And I managed to raise $35,000 for mental health research. Now, when I tell people about this, I often get asked that question: did I feel like quitting? Now, when people ask it, no one's wondering, am I some kind of superhuman who doesn't feel pain and emotion? They know I face the same struggles that they do, like we all do. What they're wondering, what they're angling to ask, is where I got the mental strength to put myself through that. They're thinking along the lines of a battle between positive and negative thoughts, and they want to know how to make the positive ones win out. Some days I felt like no one cared, and I would ask myself, why am I doing this? You see, pain, emotions, loneliness, they bring those kind of thoughts out of you. You can't help it. And then if I tried to fight that and tell myself, no, people do care about what you're doing. You are loved by your family and your friends. Then the next thought would be, yeah, they do love you, and they wouldn't want to see you going through this pain. You can stop now. And then I wouldn't know what to think. Does that mean that they didn't want me to finish? No, that can't be it. They want me to be going through this pain. No, wait, what, they're going to be disappointed in me? I don't know. There's a problem here with this idea, this battle between positive and negative thoughts. And I think you know what it is. If you get involved in this kind of internal struggle, there is no winner. The only winner is when there is no fight, when calmness prevails. See, rather than strength, there's a resilience that comes from understanding how your own mind works. Rather than having the strength to take these imaginary hits and give them back harder, you've got the know-how to see the signs of this struggle and avoid it escalating. What we need is a different perspective. When I was in high school, I was lucky enough to have a coach that changed my perspective on life. He had this saying, you've got to answer the questions before they come. His name was Jaime Fernandez, but we called him Hammer. He'd been to the Olympics for rowing and he'd come home with a medal. What made him different was that he appreciated the importance of this. He learned to be self-aware of his own thoughts. He could predict when the problem ones were coming, and he already had an answer before the question came. What does that mean? I think it's really clever because it gets you thinking. But there's probably two things you're wondering. Firstly, what are these questions? Well, they're self-talk. Voices in your head full of self-doubt, or worse. Things like, who are you to think that you can do this? You're an embarrassment and a fraud. See, what if this happens, or what if that happens? It's probably going to be a disaster. And these questions, they come at us in all kinds of situations. And they're more than just a question. It's what they imply. You see, on the surface, they seem to make sense, but they trap us into a certain way of thinking, a certain perspective that make us feel like that catastrophe is coming. It makes us distressed. Let me give you an example of this. On the first day of my run to Cape York, heaps of family and friends gathered at my place. It was really nice. And as soon as I was around the first corner and out of sight, this horrible thought went through my head. See, now that I'd begun, I had to deal with the shame of just, sorry guys. I'm not going to do it. Like seriously, turn back, or at some point, quit. Or I really did have to go through with running 5,000 kilometers. I was like, what have I done? But what if instead I had already thought every single step I take is something more to be proud of? You see, that's the answer. It's a bit more helpful, hey? But there's nothing special about it, really. This is something that anyone could come up with. But if you try to come up with that in that moment, when you're already feeling distressed by that question, no, it just doesn't happen. I mean, you can give it a go. It's a bit like trying to deliver a speech with absolutely no preparation. I mean, you can try, but good luck. So that is why you've got to answer these questions before they happen. What that means, this is the second bit, is you have to predict what they're going to be in their complete irrational form, what it feels like in that moment to ask that question, and have your answer already in there so that you don't feel that distress. See, these thoughts, they can't be a generic positive mantra. They have to be genuinely tailored to the question itself. Let me give you an example of this. Let's take a day where I was going to be running so far that I would get up for sunrise and set off, and I wasn't going to be finished running until the sun set. So at any point in that day where I'd find myself in pain and wondering, when is this ever going to end? And looking up at the sun, like some sort of progress bar on the day, it felt like the answer was never. But really, what is one day in a lifetime? Even 4 months. So to escape this endlessness feeling, I would imagine myself just a little bit older, maybe 30, 40, 50 years old, 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe even one day 100 years old, thinking back on my life, proud. And it made that one day seem a little bit shorter. And you see, this wasn't something that came to me in that moment. this was something that I thought about so much in my training in preparation, that when I would look up at that sun in that day, what it reminded me of was old man Brad watching down on me. I was transforming an endlessness feeling into a feeling of lifelong pride before I even begun. I was answering the questions before they came. I want to describe for you the hardest moment I ever went through. So let me take you to a place 4,500 kilometres from here. It's far north Queensland. And here I am, lying in a ditch, crying. I've been running 70 kilometres so far, with another 40 to go before I make it to town. It's the middle of the night, and not only am I alone, I feel trapped inside this tiny little claustrophobic ball of light. The head torch that I'm wearing, the batteries are dying. I was trying to run so light on gear that I didn't bring a spare, you idiot. And now, looking outside it, I can just kind of see cat's eyes and hoping while I'm holding this knife that I brought with me that there isn't a pack of dingoes out there or a wild bull or even just a snake, because I can barely tell the difference between erosion in the road and the stripe of a snake. I have so little energy. There's this heavy emptiness in me that goes bone deep, like into the marrow. And that has been building up for more than 100 days. A lot of my toes, they're missing nails by now, and the skin around them just keeps sliding off on my heels too. The arches of my feet have been slowly collapsing, and there's bruises on my ankles from where I've tripped and kicked myself so many times. Cartilage swollen. My knees feels like someone's attacking me with a hammer with every step. And over 4.5 million strides, this small backpack is cutting grooves in my neck. As it compresses down and I try to take just a deep breath, I get this squish, this nerve, this nauseating pain in the gap of the nerves that run through here. But you know the thing that's broken me tonight? It's just chafing. It's somehow more painful than all of that put together. There's literally blood dripping down my legs, and I can't get myself to keep running. So I'm just lying there, listening to my mind screaming, "Why are you doing this? No one understands, no one cares." And out of that, one of the worst questions: what if I got an injury? That's it. No one would blame me for not quitting. It's a forced exit. And then be able to appreciate how much pain I'm in. This is a normal brain feeling like injuring myself is a good idea. I lay there for quite some time, just painfully aware of how irrational these thoughts were. Just trying to calm myself and let them pass me by until something truly sensible went through my head. Why am I wearing clothes? I'm not joking. Why am I wearing clothes? It's the middle of the night. I'm in the middle of nowhere. It's hot. And that is the thing that's causing my chafing. Here was I blaming the humidity. But the reality is that it was me who needed to change. So I did. I stripped off and ran my first ever nude half marathon. I did about 30k kind of run walking where I could see the ground in front of me. I was genuinely worried about snapping a leg in some of this erosion. And it was amazing. Once it got to sunlight, my mood picked up so much. And I thought better of it then. I put the clothes back on and dealt with the chafage for the last 10. And it's funny, because it seems so simple in hindsight. But basically, until I'd managed to clear my mind, I wasn't able to see how one of our most common daily assumptions, that I should be wearing clothes, that was actually the thing that was causing me incredible amounts of grief, needlessly. You see, a thought doesn't have to be negative for it to be problematic. Literally anything can be. There is no strength that comes from positive always beating out negative. There is only betterment through self-awareness. After that, it was only about a week longer before I made it to the tip. And the finish was better than I could have hoped for. I got this incredible sense of closure from this moment that I burst out of the rainforest onto this beautiful white beach, right at the tip. It was absolutely surreal. And I would love to finish this there on a high, but there's just a little bit more. Because you see, stories end, but lives go on. And that is what should have been happening. My life should have been moving on. But I found it really hard to let go. I wanted to go on another adventure. You know the feeling, like coming home from a great holiday. So suddenly the questions flipped. It wasn't, why am I doing this? It was, why am I not doing this again? And I didn't have an answer. Just this battle in my mind between dreams and reality. So when I started writing a book upon someone's recommendation, and it got hard, I suddenly questioned what value it was giving anyone else. I felt self-indulgent, and I quit. I thought about getting a job, but I felt like a fraud. I could run, but what did I know about being a professional? It was incredible. This strength of mind, gone, vanished into uncertainty. But that's okay, because these questions, they never stop coming, and you've always got another chance to prepare for them. As long as you know, as long as you spend the time to find out. So that is why I ask you today, not tomorrow when you already need the answers. What are your questions going to be?